All right, what is up, everybody? Welcome to the Ruth podcast. I'm your host, Ruth Anna Sontag, but most of my friends they call me Ruth because I speak the truth, and you know what the truth does? It sets you free. So here on this podcast, you know us. We are diving into deep topics around faith, fitness, business, all things success, and breaking through barriers. People living out their calling. And today, woo! Y'all, I have an expert on today that you guys are just going to be thrilled. She's the Say Yes Queen. So each week I'm going to be sitting down with guests, entrepreneurs, faith leaders, experts, and game changers. And we're going to dig deeper on what real success looks like. So we're cutting through all the noise, all the nonsense, and getting to the heart of what it really takes to be successful and thrive in today's world. So buckle up. You're in the right spot. Come have a cup of coffee with us or water, whatever your beverage of choice is today. We are going to have a lot of fun. So I want to welcome y'all to the stage today. I want to welcome you guys. I want to invite you to, I should say, help me welcome the queen of yes. Her name is Kristen Gutierrez. And I met Kristen about a couple months ago on a work trip and sat next to this incredible woman. And you guys will see why she's so incredible in just a second. She is on fire. Her energy is 5,000. Her belief is 1,000,000. And this woman, I mean, she is just like, she's like gasoline to your fire. You'll see what I'm talking about. Help me welcome to the Truth Ruth podcast, Kristen Gutierrez.
Woo woo! What's up, Ruth Ann? Thank you so much for having me.
Oh my gosh, Kristen, I am like, guys, okay, you ever like met somebody and you're like in your head having like a middle school moment where like, I hope we can be friends forever. That's how I felt when I met you because you're so like positive, encouraging, and then like you at the event where I met you at a mastermind, and you were like a fan to the flame of an idea that I had, and like you helped me like jump over the edge on making a decision. And Kristen, is that like something that you do for like a lot of people? Like you are like that person, aren't you?
You know, I just want to say thank you for having me, but also I wanted to be your friend. So, and the things I witnessed from you after we sat next to each other that one day and the evenings we spent together was incredible. But yeah, my friends used to say I could sell ice to Eskimos.
Well, tell us a little bit. I didn't get much into your background, but
Yeah.
tell the listeners or our viewers, like tell us a little bit about you, your background, and then how you got to be a salesperson who could sell ice to an Eskimo.
No, I think that's just like a core innate thing of mine. So, like, yes, to take you back, it happens that one cold winter day, no, I'm just kidding. Like, I spent 20 years in sales.
Okay.
And so, like, my dad was a salesperson, my mom was a salesperson. But listen, my grandparents were teachers. Like, one would argue that they are salespeople, right?
100%.
Yeah, right?
I was
Hello.
a teacher. I was selling math. You know how hard it is to sell math?
Yeah, like, yeah. And I don't know if it's the smaller the kid, the harder, or the bigger the kid, the harder at that
Yeah,
point, right? Like,
very valid point.
so it's like accidentally doing something that I was kind of always called to do. And then on one beautiful day, April 17th, 2023, so 2 years ago, I was unexpectedly let go from a very
Ooh.
high paying VP of sales job. And that is when I turned what happened to me into what happened for me. And I
Mhm.
leaned in to all of this massive imperfect action
Ooh.
and created this incredible business from scratch when most people, and like there's nothing wrong with this, but like as humans we seek comfort on
Yeah.
the couch, which is messy, behind my desk,
It's real.
binge watching our favorite show. Like, I have my moments still, but I sought comfort in that moment on that day at 10 a.m. in the morning when I hung up the call to be like, what the heck. I sought comfort in action, and that is now
Ooh.
known as the Say Yes Queen, and this concept of say yes and figure it out.
First I just want to highlight that and like pin it to the wall for all of us. I
Mm.
sought comfort in action. Like, yes.
Oh,
Can you take me? Can I'm like, okay, I just want to go a little deeper. Can you take me into that moment and like what did that mean? Can you like describe the feelings and some of the action that you started to take that was starting to probably help pull you out of difficulty and into a new type of momentum?
I am having the chills right now because, like, I'm gonna just, like, parallel compare it real quick to this concept that, like,
Yeah.
listen, I need to get this is like note to self. I need to get back into the gym. And we know as a human race that when we're in the gym, although it's hard,
Yes.
it's easier to keep going and that being in the gym will give you the energy to do all of the other hard things for the day.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. So the same thing happened when I sought comfort in action. The first thing I did was I remember texting my now ex-husband, but like texting him in the middle of the call, like, OMG, I think I'm being fired. Right. And then just like in the call with them, like, because it was a 10-minute phone call,
Mm.
which is crazy. I have 2 kids, 2 mortgages, like, insane. It was an insane period. It's never a good time. Never a good time to
Never
get
a good time to
fired.
get fired.
Never a
No.
good time to have kids, like, whatever. It was just really it was chaos, and so, I just started texting people I knew and posting. I didn't post on social media like, "Woe is me." I
Yeah.
simply was like, "Hey," I sat up, like Sarah would be like, "Oh yeah, you sat up." I postured myself and I said, "I'm LinkedIn launching my business today." And on Facebook, it was a slightly different story because it's a slightly different person hanging out on Facebook. But it wasn't like, "Woe is me, my organization's this," or like whatever. It was just like, I'm doing this thing. I didn't even say I got let go or I left. I just was like, I'm doing this thing. Can you help me out? Do you have any leads?
Wow. I'm just loving like right now I'm just having I mean I have like chills too. Because I'm just thinking about like the power of that pivot. Like
Mm,
in that moment, there was something inside of you that did not go into like a survival mode, but you went into like a let me just make the best out of this mode. I mean, let me say yes and
mm,
figure it out. I mean, I know that's also the title of your new book, which we will get into, guys. I cannot wait to talk about that. So we'll talk about that in a minute. But like I just love what you said.
the first thing.
The first thing I did, and like, you know what? Those are things that you can always like pre-program. And I think the first thing that you do is so powerful in a moment so you can learn a lot about yourself. The
Mhm,
first thing I did, like I remember kind of did to connect this very different situation. The first time I did a cold plunge, I
mm,
was like very mindful of what was the first thought that came to my mind when my
mhm.
body was in that freezing water. Can I tell you what it was?
Well, I'm like, what was it? Yes, yes.
First thing to my mind was, "You can do anything, you can do anything, you can do anything, you can do anything." And I was like, "That was fascinating." Like, I couldn't have pre-programmed that,
Mhm.
or maybe I could have, but, like, it wasn't something I was cognizant of before. And now, like, just
Yeah.
hearing your story, I'm thinking, like, what do you do? What's the first thing you do when you have something happen, like, you're
It's
let
in
go
my
from your job?
so, like, this is my framework now, and I'll tell you, but then there's more stories, right? It's like the first thing you do is you make a decision. And
Make a
and some
decision.
the point of it is decision. I can do hard things is what you said, or I'm gonna start letting everybody know is what I said. But like reality is, let's say you're moving. Oh, like I'm moving right now, right? So
Yeah,
like let's say you're moving and you know you have a mountain of things to do, but
yeah.
you're choosing, maybe this is me, to get Al Pastor tacos and binge watch Sex in the City, right? Like I'm making that
Always
decision
an option.
to be to do that instead of X. So it's not
Yeah,
that, I know what the framework is and that's what I teach people on, but like we still have human reactions to things. We sometimes these human reactions become our default mechanism, like
yeah.
binge watching the show, whereas we almost sometimes have to trick our brain, and this is what we talk about with the neuroscience that backs the say yes and figure it out framework, but like it really is a thing. Like you need to release the dopamine in your brain to reward you for doing the cold plunge, to reward you for going to the gym, to reward you for making just one
Yeah,
more phone call instead of
I
scrolling
love that.
media.
And, like, you've heard of decision means incision means cut into, decision means cut off. Like when you make a decision, you're cutting off all other options. Like, I'm not going to get tacos and watch TV, although that is enticing. I am going to jump into this cold plunge. I am going to pack for my move. I am going to take action. I'm going to pivot for the positive. I'm going to say, okay, well, great day for me to launch my business on LinkedIn. Great day for me to share. And I love how what I love about you is like in that moment, you stepped into like you stepped into the highest version of yourself and into sharing. Like you
Mhm.
weren't hiding. You're like,
Mhm.
okay, well, I guess here we go. I think I'm getting let go. You text your ex-husband, or you talk to your friends. Hey, are you
Mhm.
looking? Do you have any leads? Like you stepped into transparency and sharing, which I think is so powerful. So many people, they just hide.
Hide.
They
Stop
hide.
hiding. So I had 2 iterate like, I say I'm on the 2.0 version of my business in the last 2 years. I sold sales consulting for the first 8 months. I killed it. I was just dying in implementation.
Yeah.
And then I took another job thinking that because everything I had going on, the financial chaos and divorce in my life, I thought, oh, this was the right thing for my ego. Let me get my ego out of the way. It turns out that job wasn't right. And I'm so grateful for that it
Mhm.
was a very short amount of time. And then this 2.0 version is where I finally stepped into serving other entrepreneurs. But
Yeah.
I had to give myself permission because even though I didn't hide the day I lost my job and I just leaned all the way in, it's like life is a series of up and down valleys and like peaks and valleys. And the reality is when I didn't think I had all this imposter syndrome about like, who am I to serve other entrepreneurs or I'm not ready yet. And no matter what that
Mm.
is for you watching or you listening, it's like nobody else's opinions pay your bills.
Ooh. Ooh. Hold the phone. Nobody else's opinions pay the bills.
Mm-mm. And so when that was the mindset I adopted in
Hmm.
April of 2024, a year after losing my job. I had to rip the Band-Aid off and stop hiding then. But
Yeah.
you're right. So many people said to me, you're being so transparent, you're sharing, and it's helping. So whether
Yes.
you're 1.0, 2.0, somewhere in between, or wherever you are, like sharing transparently and being vulnerable
Yeah.
really resonates.
It works. It works. And I think it works because authenticity is like the highest frequency. And authenticity is also called like enlightenment. But
Mm,
authenticity, I think, is actually this is interesting. I think authenticity is actually the definition of humility, which humility is willingness to be seen for who you really are. Strengths, flaws, and all. And authenticity lands. It is the highest frequency. It is contagious. It is magnetic.
mm,
Love how you said it's permission giving. And
mm,
I can 100% like just hang like I just want to like highlight that. It's so powerful because like when you like step up and share honestly, vulnerably, true on like no hiding,
mm,
open kimono. We're talking about like what's really going on, ripping the rug back,
mm.
handle what's been swept underneath for how long, we don't know. But there's stuff going on. You give other people language.
Have you read the Let Them Theory yet by Mel Robbins?
I'm listening to okay, I'm reading it right now.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm on like 2.5 times.
Yeah.
I, I cannot get enough of it. And so in chapter 5 or 6, or wherever the chapter is, that she talks about somebody having given her a 3-step framework, a
Yeah.
3-part framework for becoming a speaker.
Yeah.
Third part of that is posting on social media. And
Mhm.
she was saying in the book how, well, I don't post on social media about what I do because at that point she had all this imposter syndrome about being a free speaker and her social media was full of her kids and whatever.
Yes. Yes. I remember this part.
Yeah, and she was looking for permission to like external validation. And so for a year or 2, I think she said 2 years, she had this 3-step framework and she
Uh-huh.
didn't do anything with it. And it just comes up for me a lot, because if you're listening and you haven't read Mel Robbins' The Let Them Theory,
Do
100%
it.
recommend.
Run to Audible right now.
Run, run. It's so good. And then 2, like there's so many nuggets in there, but like it really is we have the permission all along, but like sometimes we just need to be in the right room with the right mentors, with the right community, with the right people, with the right friends, with the right spouse, support network, whatever it is, like we sometimes need other people to tell us we have permission. And
Yeah.
then we need to know that, yeah, like showing up, like all these things you're saying, showing up
Yeah.
online vulnerably and like iterating the heck out of yourself is like first of all, nobody's even paying attention that much.
Yeah.
And the algorithms are making it so they're not even seeing your stuff to begin with. Like they're not going to notice.
Sorry to break it to you guys. But this just in. The
Like,
algorithms are not on your side.
like, how do all these plants around you and me grow? I mean, they have to grow, and they grow like in a different janky, non like
Yeah.
perfect symmetrical way. They just grow. And sometimes a leaf dies and sometimes it keeps going, and like sometimes it becomes the strongest branch. I mean, that's a really great analogy, right? Like
You know what I love about what you just said about like with plant life?
yeah.
Is like even when the stuff like the leaves fall off or the limbs get lopped off because you gotta prune, you gotta perfect, gotta iterate, gotta cut things off, gotta decide, right? All that stuff, where do all those clippings fall? At your feet. You know what that happens? Like what you chopped off becomes like manure, for lack of all better words, crap. You know what crap does? Crap produces crop. That's what happens. Is the stuff that dies becomes the soil. It becomes like micronutrients for the soil for you to grow from it.
Love it. I
Crap
mean,
becomes crop.
I love it. I love it. Send me this transcript, please.
I will listen. It's all yours. But like I love what you said. I just kind of want to again like you can't pay your bills with other people's opinions. That's so powerful. I always say like OPO will kill you. Other people's opinions, OPO. Like OPO will kill you. I think you need to go on GEO, which is God's opinion. Like, or your highest self's opinion. That's going to help you go. But OPO will kill you. Because if you live for somebody else's opinion, you'll die for it. And I made a decision, Kristen. This is kind of like more of like a faith decision, but I decided I am not going to live for anybody who didn't die for me. I'm just not going to do it. Why would I live for you? You won't die for me. Why would I live for you? And anyways, it's a little personal stand, but I love what you said about like share, show up, step up. Like just so powerful. And so, there's so many things I want to say based on what we've already shared, and like just making a decision and don't hide, decide, like just get in the game. And you found comfort taking massive and perfect action.
Yeah.
I love that.
Thank you.
Yes. Now you can't see like what's behind my computer screen, but like I have a picture I'm staring at. It's Miss Frizzle. Do you remember the Magic School Bus?
My kids talk about it still because they still watch it. Yeah.
Yes. So Miss Frizzle, she had this this slogan. Have you ever seen it or like heard of the Miss Frizzle?
So long ago, but like please tell me and tell the rest of us.
Get dirty, take chances, and make mistakes. She would say, get dirty, take chances, and make mistakes. Anyway, so I have it like on my wall as my version of like say yes and figure it out. Way before my girl Kristen Gutierrez wrote her book, and we're over here like thank God for Mel Robbins. We're giving her high fives. We're telling you to go read her book, but I want to like put a pin in that and like let's talk about your book. So you are sharing, stepping up, showing up, and have obviously through even just the parts of your story that you've shared, you are pulling back the curtain on like, hey, I've been through some stuff and here's how I overcame. Right?
Yeah.
So can you tell us about like your book, your new book, Say Yes and Figure It Out, the perfect framework for taking massive imperfect action?
It's actually my second book.
Oh.
So I know, right? Okay, so first I learned a framework, how to write a book in 3 months. Because like I didn't grow up. I didn't have a dream on my heart to always be an author. And I love sharing that perspective because I want to make sure everybody's listening in that like it's super cool that now I'm coming out with a second book. And I've learned that like books are simply tools. Like a blog is a tool, like the posts we share on social media are tools. And when you reframe what the book is, how long it needs to even take to write, and like all the various pieces, then you're like, oh, This is like a way to get a message out.
Yeah.
And I had a mentor who helped me, especially in the beginning of my first 10 months launching my own business. And I'll talk about her in the book. And she says, like, you know, you're the girl that says yes and figures it out. So she gave me the title of this book. It just so naturally came out of her mouth because she had seen me time and time again, you know, like a little bit of ask for advice or like being in a situation and you're like, okay, let me just do that and then figure it out. So the book, Say Yes and Figure It Out, is like this 4-step framework for taking massive imperfect action. And then the concept goes, no matter what day or month or season you're in, you're going to repeat this framework as many times as you need to. So many of us innately are repeating this framework 10, 25 times a day. Yeah. Right. But like if we're chasing a big goal, we also, it's not like we're only going to complete the framework once. We're going to have many say yes and figure it out moments along the way to that goal. But here's where like the science comes into it and like neuroscience, like our brain. So a lot of times we think that our brain will be happy when we're done packing or when we've accomplished our $1 million revenue goal. But in fact, dopamine, the feel-good chemical that gets released when we eat chocolate or work out or whatever, dopamine gets released when we're in action. In fact, dopamine gets released the second you know how they say, like the transformation is in the transaction. So like the second you make a decision is where you transform into being the person that you want to be. Or even if the decision's more minor than that, it's like dopamine gets released then. And then as we talk about the 4 steps, I'll stop for a sec, but like as we talk about the 4 steps, dopamine gets released along the way. And so it's not just when you are done packing, you'll be happy. When you realize you'll be happy once you just pack one box or once you just throw away one bag of stuff or donate one bag of stuff. Yeah. That's when your brain is starting to see progress.
Ooh, and okay. Ooh. Tony Robbins says progress is what makes you happy. He has said that over and over and over again. It's not the destination, it's progress. Progress is what makes you happy. Like you just bottom lined it. And I also I feel like an exclamation, but I wish I had like a highlight. I could just like highlighter what we were talking about. Like if, you know, we were reading our transcript or something, or people could see it, but I'm sure that makes sense. I'm
over here taking all these notes.
I'm taking notes too. Are y'all taking notes? We have some people who are viewing. You guys are with us. Take some notes. Grab a pen and paper, boys and girls. Sharpen your pencils. We're taking some notes. I love what you said about like it's not about like being ready. Because ready is actually a decision, never a destination. Never have you arrived at a place like, hey, I've arrived at I'm ready. That's never a place. You'll never arrive at like I'm quote unquote I'm at ready. It's a decision, and that decision releases dopamine, the feel good chemical in your brain, and it comes from like taking action that leads to progress.
Yeah, listen, let's step it out for you because your brain is about to do cartwheels. So the first step is to decide. The second step is to take one step. Because it's not take 100 steps. It's
one step.
Take one. Just one.
What's the next most productive thing I could do?
Lean in.
Ooh.
The third step is to lean in.
Okay.
And then the fourth step is to celebrate. Celebrate the heck out of everything and then start the cycle over as many times a day or a week or a season as you need to.
Oh, I love this. Okay, so decide. One step. Lean in. Celebrate yourself like crazy. Olympic level. Woo! Celebrations.
Right?
Like, you know, it was so funny. We do this for kids, but why do we stop doing this when we're adults?
Right. Yeah. And even as a VP of sales, it's, you kind of like, oh, I was doing that then because we were chasing $15 million of revenue a year. It's like we were chasing big goals, but we were celebrating. My team had the 6 of us had such a culture that like we were celebrating the heck out of phone calls, emails, responses, no's, $15,000 wins, whatever it was, so that we were motivated to keep going. Because when you're chasing 15 million or your first million or 100 phone calls or a weight loss goal, like whatever you're celebrating,
100%.
if you're chasing a weight loss goal and you don't celebrate today, you had an Oreo and you didn't mentally beat yourself up.
Come on.
Right?
Come on.
All of the little wins that feel like not wins or they don't feel like significant toward the bigger goal.
Yeah.
You're missing the whole point.
Yeah. And here's what I always say. What you don't celebrate with success, you pair with stress. Like if I can't celebrate, like I washed a load of laundry versus it sat in the machine until I have to wash it again because I got like that stank mildew, which happens to lots of us people who are really busy and productive. We forget about the laundry, right? But like, no, I switched the laundry. Like, yay me. Yes. I took care of my body today. I drank my recommended ounces of water. I got to bed before 1 a.m. Like whatever it is, like you got to start yay you. Like put yay me in the comments if you are watching this and you like to need to celebrate yourself. Like yay me. Good job, Ruthie. Sometimes I'll be like, give my own self a high five. Like let's go. Let's go. I have this. I'm not sure if you can hear it, but like. Could you hear that?
Yes, of course.
Praise God. Because like like sometimes I'll just like myself. Listen, you have to. Like until you have a hype team, you gotta be your own hype team.
Yeah.
And you know what I also love? I'm an acronym queen, and my brain works in acronyms. And I was thinking, decide, one step, lean in, celebrate. And if you were to add like another letter, like execute again, it spells dolce, which means sweet.
Well, yes. I mean, honestly, it is ironic. Well, I don't know what the right adjective is, but like people have tried to say the 4 steps should all start with the same letter, or they should spell something, or they whatever. And then like it just became a thing in my brain. I think that's also just how my brain works.
I would say yes and figure it out.
I think there's beauty. There's ironic beauty in the fact that like it is chaotic and doesn't actually work as something, because 100 people have tried to tell me change the
No, I'm not saying to change it. I just was like, oh, it almost spells dolce, which means sweet.
We'll just say it does. Yeah.
Sweet. Okay, well, this is, oh my gosh, I'm having so much fun talking to you. This is amazing. I love what you were saying though about like just take one step. This reminds me of my VA recently had like a revelation while we were talking. we were chatting and she goes, oh, it's like motion activated lights. I'm like, what? What is? Like, what are you talking about? She goes, taking the next step in faith is like walking along a dark path. And as you take a step, the motion activated lights come on. But they don't turn on until they're motion activated. And you're like, just take the next one step, decide, take the next one step, decide, take the next one step, lean in, celebrate your step, take the next step, decide, one step, lean in, execute, take the next step. And like, as you do that, the path does begin to light up. There is comfort in what feels like difficulty or just the unknown, just the uncertainty of it all.
All of it, because you will be scared, have imposter syndrome, get in your own way, have naysayers, all the things. And not everyone's going to support you on whatever the goal or journey or, thing is. So yeah, this 4-step cycle, it's very rewarding internally for yourself, which is most important. And then also it's kind of like wildfire. It's super fun.
I love it. I'm all about it. So how can people find your book?
Okay. Yes. Say yes and figure it out.com. Super easy.
It's going to be easier than say yes and figure it out.com.
And so depending on when you're watching this, you might be signing up to be notified when the book is launched. I will say that like the goal is Q2 of 2025. So April, May, or June.
So close.
So close. We are so close. We are
I
so
love it. I love it. It reminds me of like the Yes Man movie with what's his name?
Oh,
Uh
Jim Carrey?
Jim Carrey.
Ah,
Yes, you're like the yes girl, the yes queen.
there is a chapter in the book about saying no. So that's the
Oh,
thing, right?
that's
Because you
also
do,
good.
it depends. Like there's like multiple angles you can come at the say yes from, and it isn't respectfully just all about the yeses. But I think I'm glad that you brought that up because it's important to know like it is also about when to say no.
Yes. Well,
Sometimes that means saying no to something that you've just said yes to.
mm, okay.
Know
Take
when
it.
to hold them,
Take it.
to walk away.
Know when to walk away. Know when to run. That's such a great song. I love that song. I feel like that song often goes like in my head throughout the day. Like, don't ever count. You never count your money when you're sitting at the table.
Dang, Ruthie dropping it like it's hot. Oh my God.
I love that song. It was one of my dad's favorite songs. Anyways, so to go a little deeper about when to say no, because something that I truly believe is like no is a full sentence, and
Mhm.
we're not taught that as kids. I have a program that it's called Success Club, and I teach people in Success Club like just one of the most powerful things you could learn to do is just say no.
Yeah.
No, I don't want to do that. That doesn't feel good to me. I don't align with that. I don't subscribe to that. I'm not interested. Just no.
Yeah.
And I think it's really hard to say. People are learning to say no to themselves, but that's a huge self-discipline muscle. Can you like talk a little bit more about that?
I mean, I think you just did really like because it isn't something that comes naturally to many of us, or depending on what the thing is, right? I'm like, I'm trying to get out there more, or I'm trying to do this. And so I need to say yes to all these things because I'm going to figure it out. But then by saying yes to all these things, what else is being sacrificed in the background?
Mm,
And so it really just depends, like, as it relates to a goal. Oops, my gosh. As it relates to like a goal, like, for example, running your own business is a goal and growing to $1 million is a goal within the business. But I can't say yes to every shiny object that comes along the way.
yeah.
So I used to talk about I talk about how when I was in corporate, I used to chase shiny objects. And in my corporate job, that looked like me also being a realtor, me also being a Beachbody coach, me also doing this, me also all of a sudden having 2 kids. And when I had my second kid and I got promoted to VP, I realized I had no time left. And so I had to say no to the volunteer activity. I had to say no to Beachbody. I had to say a no to a lot of things. And I realized that when I put my tunnel vision glasses on by saying no, this other book I always recommend called The One Thing, this book helped just truly tunnel vision my focus. And ironically or not, as I put all my focus on being a VP of sales, my personal income went through the roof.
Ooh.
And that's why I really wasn't wanting or preparing to be let go because I was like loving what I was doing.
Yeah.
But that's like knowing when to say no. And as an entrepreneur now, while I know better than to chase other shiny objects like that, the shiny objects in our world is all these widgets and tools and microphones and platforms and this and that and all these things that like we get bombarded with or we see, and like you just need to know when to say no. Like
Yeah.
I grew my business to 6 figures without a website.
Wow.
You don't even need a website.
I love what you just said. I want to highlight it. You said now that you know better. And I'm thinking like now that you know better, you know better. Now that
Oh,
you know better, you know better. Like it's like I'm better at saying no. I'm better at being like, no, I don't need that. I don't need these 15 pieces of new equipment that look really good. I can, look at them on Amazon, give them the little heart, but they don't got to go in the cart. They get the heart, not the cart. You know what I mean?
okay, Ruthie, this is why the book isn't finished, because this podcast will end up parts of this podcast and you being quoted. I will ask for your permission now if I have it, but like I'm going to quote you in my book and like this is going to be beautiful.
Yeah, well, and something I noticed, like when I was supporting some of my clients with launching their business, is we talked about branding, and branding is not anding. It's branding, not anding. So it's not like and I'm a realtor and a coach and I do Beachbody and I do,
So
I
much.
could do light plumbing on the side and I could do graphic design. It's like branding is not anding. It's like, what's your
Mhm.
one thing that you're known for? And
Mhm.
even like we've all heard that probably that adage for the word focus, like follow one course until successful. And I feel like with attention, like we know this as business people, attention is the new currency.
Yes.
Like attention is the new oil. And so it's like you got to learn how to capture attention, which also means you got to learn how to keep yours.
But I was gonna say the same thing because yeah, that's often about other people's attention, but like,
Yeah.
what is the internal, like attention? How are you internalizing? You know, the thing is, I mean, I think we need to wrap, but here's the thing. In the summer of last year, when I was in the height of my financial crisis,
Yeah.
I scaled my workout. I had just come home from an event like the one that you and I met at, and with a laundry list of to-do items because like I love a good to-do list, right? And I got back to my desk after being on a high from being at a conference, and I was immediately overwhelmed by all this implementation I needed to do.
Yeah.
And I said to myself, what if I don't do any of it? And I
Mm.
scrapped the entire to-do list and I scaled my work hours because I can outwork anybody administratively. Like I can just like I can get more done at my desk in more out like in the same amount of hours or whatever than the next person. Like that's like I can do that. But that doesn't mean that I'm being productive or that I'm working on needle moving objects in my business. It doesn't mean that I'm not chasing a different shiny object. So I scaled my work hours back to 4 hours a day. I
Hmm.
work like 11 to 2 most days. I like barely work Friday. Like I barely work. And I get more done because I'm focused. And then I use the other time to live in my imagination and ideate ways to collaborate or, how to move the needle in a more significant way.
Wow.
I know.
I feel like people could just hang their hat, hang your coat on that point right there. That's so powerful. Well, I have two questions before we to wrap it up. Okay, two questions, maybe three, but probably two. Well, my question for you is, what does in this phase of your life, and it was all that you're learning with your book and focusing and not chasing shiny objects, what is one tip? If you could give a tip or a challenge to the listeners, like what would you advise for them to do?
Yeah, that's make a decision. My baby daddy, I quote him all the time for saying, indecision is worse than the wrong decision.
Mm-hmm.
So like root that in that, make a decision and just like the magic school bus, get dirty, take chances, make mistakes. I wrote that down, right? Like make a decision
Frizzle it, Miss Frizzle it, just jump in.
and see it. And if you need to say no or pivot, say no or pivot. Nobody's paying attention. Even if you shout it from the rooftops, nobody is paying attention.
Well, also you can change your mind.
Yeah, right.
I don't think anyone's gonna hold a gun to your head and be like, hey, you said you were gonna post and you didn't, or you posted and took it down. What the heck? You're not allowed to change it. No one's gonna hold you hostage to you changing
Mhm,
your mind.
mhm.
That's
Yeah,
powerful. Okay,
beautiful.
two questions I have for you as we wrap. What does success mean to you?
Oh, this always evolves, and I think it should, but like this inner feeling of fulfillment.
Mm,
Like I get the chills from just you like acknowledging that like you're in the same space as me and like what that I was just talking to a prospective client earlier and he's had his moment of fulfillment. He said it was like walking through a bed of roses. Like these are his words and he comes from a big high paying corporate job and he felt the fulfillment for the very first time by
mm.
speaking on a stage and like sharing his knowledge. So success to me is like now that I know what this fulfillment feels like, it's almost like you can't get enough because it's serving others. It's like when you're tapped into the fulfillment, you really are serving others.
I love that. There's like so much there with like satisfaction and peace and knowing that you're contributing at a high level. It's everything. Wow. Okay, last question I have for you. So I have a program called Success Club where I educate, equip, and empower kids to think, speak, and act like champions, and also supporting parents in raising world changers. Why do you think that the world needs something like Success Club?
Like I believe, because I live in this world that I'm in now, that there's so much education that the traditional school system isn't giving to our little ones. It's not to knock. My kids are in public school. I'm very grateful for public school. But what is the other education that they can? My 6-year-old, he's 6, he's in first grade, innately and act like wanted a YouTube channel. That wasn't mommy, like, oh, you should be a YouTube. And because my 6-year-old wants it, he knows so much he knows about CapCut.
Let's go.
He knows about, so, and then guess what my 4-year-old wants now? Mom, can you make this a YouTube video real quick? Like, and so they're, so
Influencers.
not that Success Club does that. My point is there's so much need, the
Yeah.
way our world is evolving, that the education, whether it's a homeschool, a private school, a public school, it could and should. There's opportunities for it to be subsidized with other exciting programs or initiatives or extracurriculars like Success Club might be able to provide. I mean, they don't even like do science in the schools anymore, like, or whatever. Like, don't quote me on that, but like, you know what I like? My kid's like trying to get into a science club. That's why I said that.
Mm-hmm.
So school is different than it used to be, and so I think there's a big need for the subsidized support.
I agree. I like to use the analogy, like in our food, we have nutritional gaps.
I love this.
And in our education, we have educational gaps. And so it's like, what do we take when we need more support in our nutrition? We take a vitamin, we take a supplement. Well, Success Club is the supplement for the education, equipment, and empowerment that you're not getting usually in the schoolhouse, in the church house, or in your home house. Like, you're usually just not getting these supports. And so it's like you said, it's evolved opportunities to help match the relevance of the times so that kids actually have more of a advantage, not just barely survive and get by, because nobody wants that for their kids, but to thrive. So I appreciate you.
Yeah, and think about it though. It's been around. Like, I just thought of manners schools. Like, I don't, even my boss in corporate, whose daughters are just out of college now. Like, so not even that long ago, when her daughters were young, like they were going to manners, like a Saturday afternoon manners school thing. Like, this concept of subsidized education, broadly speaking, has existed forever. Mm-hmm. It's just understanding that, and that's a good thing, because it means that it needs to continue to exist, and how somebody like you provides those types of resources that are, current. That's what makes you so special and different.
Oh, thank you. And I agree. I couldn't agree more that it's a subsidized part of education that is very needed and necessary.
Yeah.
They're needed and necessary. Well, Kristen, how do people get a hold of you if they want to get a hold of your book? I think is what you said, sayyesandfigureitout.com. Is there any other way that people can follow along on your journey?
Well, any of your favorite social platforms. It would make it so easy if all of my names were the same, but they're not. And I have tried to standardize it, but you're just going to have to find me on the interwebs. You can Google stalk me, or maybe in the comments, we'll drop some links or whatever.
Your information in the show notes.
Yeah, like, all good. But like, I'm out there. I'm very, very, very visible.
Awesome. Well, hey, I know that today's conversation was absolutely amazing. Thank you for joining me, Kristen. And I know that someone listening or watching is walking away with some extra truth or value. So please feel free to share with us what stood out to you. And Kristen, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom today. I'm so excited for your book. I'll be one of the first to buy it and read it. I love the Say Yes and Figure It Out model and framework. I love the Miss Frizzle approach to life. And man, it's just such an incredible opportunity to interview you today. So thank you for being on the podcast.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate your friendship, and let's talk soon.
Absolutely. All right, guys, have an amazing day. Bye.
Bye.